The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep hum. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through them, his black suit sharp against the gleaming white floors. Behind him, his aide Sojin carried a tablet loaded with Earth's defense. Reports. Today would change everything for humanity, though not in the way they hoped. The chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in curved rows that reached up to a crystal dome ceiling. The air smelled of ozone, and something sweet that made Hyunwoo's nose twitch. He had been coming here for 3 years, but the sight still amazed him. The Zephyrians clicked their insect-like mouths as he passed. Their compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors. The Veldari representatives hummed softly, their crystal bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. Near the center, the massive Vorthak delegation took up an entire section with their bear-like bodies covered in blue fur. Hyunwoo took his seat in the small human section. Only 12 seats for the newest members of Galactic Society. Sojin sat beside him and whispered, "The vote count looks bad, sir. Maybe we should request a delay." "No," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Let's get this over with." Chancellor Krextal rose. From the central podium, the Vorthak leader was 3 meters tall with golden fur that marked his high rank. His voice boomed through the chamber's speakers, translated instantly into hundreds of languages. "Today we vote on Resolution 2847, Krextal announced. The complete ban of human military forces from all galactic conflicts. The chamber erupted. Thousands of alien voices filled the air with clicks, hums, roars, and sounds that had no human names. Most of them sounded happy. Very happy. Krextal raised a massive paw for silence. The resolution states that human military doctrine is incompatible with civilized warfare. Their tactics are too aggressive, too violent, too primitive. More cheering. A Zephyrian in the front row stood up, his thin arms waving. "Humans fight like animals," he shouted in accented standard. "They have no honor, no mercy." Sojin's hand tightened on her tablet. Hyunwoo placed a calm hand on her arm. A Veldari representative's crystal form glowed brighter as she spoke. "We have evolved beyond such brutality. Why should we allow these barbarians to corrupt our peaceful methods?" "Peaceful methods that work," added a Kalari from the upper rows. His snake-like body coiled around his seat. "We negotiate. We find solutions. We do not simply destroy everything like humans do." Hyunwoo stood up. The chamber fell quiet, waiting to hear what Earth's representative would say. "Honored Council," he began, his voice steady. "Humanity has served alongside your forces for 3 years. We have fought your enemies. We have saved your colonies. We have bled for worlds that are not even ours." "Yes," Krextal interrupted, "and you did it with methods that horrify civilized beings. Acceptable losses, you call it. Collateral damage, these are not concepts that belong in modern warfare. You use nuclear weapons," a Zephyrian called out. "You poison entire planets rather than fight cleanly. You sacrifice your own soldiers, like game pieces," added another voice. "You torture prisoners for information," came a third accusation. The accusations kept coming. Each one made the aliens angrier and more disgusted. Hyunwoo let them talk. He had heard it all before. When they finally quieted down, he spoke again. "We do what we must to win." "Exactly," Krextal roared. "You do not understand that some victories are not worth the cost. Some methods are too horrible to use, even against enemies." "We have learned to fight with honor," said the Veldari representative. "Our weapons are precise. Our tactics preserve life. We end conflicts with minimal casualties, on both sides." "Because your enemies also fight with honor," Hyunwoo replied. "What happens when you face an enemy that does not?" The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Krextal laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "What enemy would be so foolish? Any species, advanced enough for space travel, has learned to be civilized. The age of savage warfare ended long ago. For you, perhaps," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Are you threatening us?" A Kalari representative hissed. No, Hyunwoo said. I am trying to warn you. But they were not listening anymore. The vote began immediately. Each species cast their decision on glowing panels. The results appeared on the chamber's main screen in real time. Zephyrians, in favor of the ban. Valdari, in favor of the ban. Vorthak, in favor of the ban. Kalari, in favor of the ban. One by one, every species voted to ban human military forces from galactic conflicts. The final tally was devastating. 847 in favor, 1 against. Only Earth voted against the resolution. The chamber exploded in celebration. Aliens danced, sang, and made sounds of pure joy. The Zephyrians clicked their approval, so loudly it hurt human ears. The Valdari's crystal bodies chimed like bells. Even the usually serious Vorthak were roaring with laughter. Order! Krextal called, though he was grinning widely. The resolution passes by overwhelming majority, effective immediately, human. Military forces are banned from participating in any galactic conflict, police action, or defense operation outside of Earth's solar system. More cheering. Sojin looked sick. Her face was pale and her hands shook slightly. Furthermore, Krextal continued, all human military advisors currently serving with alien forces must return to Earth within 30 days. All joint military exercises are cancelled. All shared military technology agreements are void. The cheering got even louder. Some aliens were actually dancing in the aisles. Krextal turned to look directly at Hyunwoo. Ambassador, do you have any final words? Hyunwoo stood slowly. The chamber fell quiet, waiting to hear humanity's defeated representative beg or make threats or break down in anger. Instead, he simply nodded. We understand, he said calmly. You no longer want our help. You no longer want our protection. You no longer want humanity involved in your wars. He paused and looked around the chamber. We will give you exactly what you have asked for. Something in his tone made a few aliens shift uncomfortably, but most were still too happy to notice. Hyunwoo and Sojin gathered their things and walked toward the exit. As they passed the alien representatives, the mockery began. Good riddance to bad rubbish, a Zephyrian clicked. Maybe now they will learn to be civilized, a Valdari chimed. The galaxy is safer without human barbarism, rumbled a Vorthak. Hyunwoo kept walking. His face showed nothing, but Sojin noticed his hands were clenched into tight fists. Outside the chamber, they walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus, Prime in silence. Other aliens they passed looked at them with mixtures of pity and disgust. Word had already spread about the vote. Finally, Sojin could not stay quiet anymore. Sir, what do we do now? Hyunwoo stopped walking and pulled out a small device. He typed a short message and sent it on a secure channel back to Earth. The message was simple. They want us out of their wars. Give them what they wish for, completely. Within minutes, a reply came back from Earth Military Command. Understood. All human forces will withdraw from galactic operations immediately. Good luck to them. Sojin stared at the device. Sir, what does that mean? Hyunwoo looked out through a crystal window at the ships in the station's docking bays. Ships from dozens of worlds all flying together in peace and friendship, also confident that their advanced civilized ways would keep them safe. It means, he said quietly, that they are about to learn why we were never invited to join their civilization in the first place. We were not kept out because we were too primitive to understand their ways. We were kept out because they were too civilized to understand ours. I don't understand, Sojin said. Hyunwoo turned away from the window. They think we fight like barbarians because we enjoy violence. They are wrong. We fight like barbarians because sometimes barbarism is the only thing that works. He started walking again. They are about to discover what happens when civilized beings face uncivilized threats. As they boarded their shuttle back to Earth, neither of them noticed the small news ticker running on the station's displays. Minor pirate activity reported in Zirian sector. Local forces responding. Situation contained. The galaxy's last warning. was already flashing, but no one was paying attention. They were too busy celebrating their victory over human barbarism to notice that the real barbarians were just getting started. 6 months had passed since the ban. Colonel Jin Ho stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha, watching the stars through the reinforced windows. The station orbited Kepler 442b, a human colony world at the edge of known space. It was quiet out here. Too quiet. "Sir, you need to see this," Lieutenant Ari called from the communications center. Jin Ho walked over to her station. The young officer looked worried as she pointed to her screens. "Pirate attacks are up 300% in the last month. The aliens are struggling to handle even small raider groups." "Show me," Jin Ho said. Ari pulled up a star map. Red dots marked recent attacks across the outer rim. "Here, here, and here," she said, pointing to clusters of red. "The Zephyrians lost an entire convoy to raiders last week. The Valdari had to abandon 2 mining stations because they could not fight off pirates." Sergeant Boram looked up from his maintenance work. "Pirates never used to be this bold when we were around." "That's not the worst part," Ari continued. She switched to a different display. Intelligence picked up something new. "The aliens are calling it the Devourer Swarm." Jin Ho frowned. "I have not heard that name." "It started 3 weeks ago," Ari explained. "A fully automated fleet attacked a Kalari research station. No demands, no communication, just complete destruction. The survivors said the ships looked like they were built from scrap metal, but they moved and fought like nothing they had ever seen." "Automated ships are not new," Boram said. "Lots of species use drones." "Not like these," Ari replied. She pulled up a damaged video file. "This is from the Kalari station's security cameras." The video was grainy and kept cutting out, but Jin Ho could see enough. Strange, angular ships swarmed around the station like angry insects. They moved in perfect coordination. But there was something wrong about their movements. Too quick, too precise. Almost like they were learning and adapting in real time. "The ships changed tactics 3 times during the fight," Ari said. "Every time the Kalari tried a new defensive strategy, the attackers immediately countered it." Jin Ho watched the video again. Something cold grew in his stomach. "How many stations have been hit?" 7 confirmed, Ari said. "But here's the strange part. The attacks are getting more sophisticated. The first one was clumsy, almost random. The latest one was perfectly executed, like something is learning from each battle." "And the aliens think this is just another pirate problem?" Jin Ho asked. "Worse," Ari said. She pulled up news feeds from the galactic networks. "They think it's a minor issue that will resolve itself." Jin Ho read the headlines with growing disbelief. "Zephyrian military confident in quick resolution. Valdari Fleet Admiral, situation under control. Kalari Defense Minister, no cause for alarm." On the main screen, a news broadcast was playing. A Zephyrian general with bright green compound eyes was being interviewed. General Vixtor, the reporter was saying, "How do you respond to concerns about these so-called Devourer attacks?" The general clicked his mouth dismissively. "These are clearly the work of desperate pirates using stolen technology. Our advanced tactical systems will have no trouble containing such primitive threats." "But the attacks seem to be escalating," the reporter pressed. "Because we are taking time to study them properly," Vixtor replied. "Unlike humans, we do not simply blast everything with overwhelming force. We use precision and intelligence. These raiders will be dealt with cleanly and efficiently, with minimal casualties on both sides." Jin Ho muted the broadcast. "Have they tried to contact us? Ask for advice?" "No, sir," Ari said. "The ban is still in effect. They have made it clear they do not want human input on military matters." Boram laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. Our primitive methods would not work on these sophisticated enemies." Jin Ho turned back to the star map. The red dots seemed to pulse with warning. He had seen patterns like this before, during the border wars 20 years ago. Small, probing, attacks, testing defenses, learning weaknesses, building up to something bigger. "Ari, I want you to run a full analysis on these attacks. Look for patterns, progression, anything that might tell us what we are really dealing with." "Yes, sir." "And Boram, start checking our own defenses. If this thing is as adaptive as it seems, we need to be ready." "Sir," Ari said hesitantly, "should we try to warn them? The aliens, I mean. If this is really as dangerous as it looks." Jinho considered it. Earth's orders had been clear. Complete withdrawal from galactic military affairs. No interference, no advice, no help unless specifically requested. But people were dying. "Put me through to Ambassador Hyunwoo," he decided. The connection took several minutes to establish. When Hyunwoo's face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. Very tired. "Colonel Jinho," Hyunwoo said. "What can I do for you?" "Sir, we are seeing some disturbing intelligence about attacks in the outer systems. I think the aliens may be facing something they are not prepared for." Hyunwoo's expression did not change. "The ban specifically forbids us from interfering in galactic military matters." "I understand, sir. But if this is what I think it is..." "What do you think it is?" Jinho chose his words carefully. "A probe, something testing their defenses, learning their capabilities, preparing for a larger assault." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "I will pass your concerns through proper channels." The connection ended. Jinho stared at the blank screen, knowing what that meant. The proper channels would ignore anything coming from humans. They had made that very clear. 3 days later, Ari finished her analysis. Jinho read her report twice, hoping he had misunderstood something. He had not. "The progression is textbook," Ari explained, pointing to charts and graphs on her display. "Stage 1, random probing attacks to test basic responses. Stage 2, targeted strikes against specific defense types. Stage 3, coordinated assaults to measure tactical adaptation speed." "And Stage 4? Jinho asked, though he already knew. "Full-scale assault using everything learned in the previous stages." Boram looked up from cleaning his rifle. "How long until Stage 4? "Based on the current progression rate," Ari said. "Maybe 6 weeks." Jinho walked back to the observation window. In the distance, he could see commercial ships moving along the trade routes, alien vessels carrying goods and passengers between worlds, all protected by the civilized military forces of the Galactic Council. "Sir," Ari said quietly, "I tried to send a warning through the emergency channels. It was rejected automatically. The message said human military intelligence is no longer considered reliable." "Of course it was," Jinho muttered. "There is something else," Ari continued. "I have been monitoring alien military communications. They are treating this like a police action, small patrol groups, defensive formations designed for dealing with rational enemies who follow rules of engagement. And the Devourer swarm, based on the attack patterns, it does not follow any rules at all. It does whatever works best to destroy the target completely." Jinho closed his eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military, fighting everything from pirates to alien invasions. He knew the difference between an enemy that could be negotiated with and one that simply needed to be destroyed. The aliens, with their advanced civilized warfare, had never learned to make that distinction. "Sir," Boram said, "what do we do?" Jinho opened his eyes and looked at his small crew, 3 humans on a remote station, watching disaster approach while the targets of that disaster celebrated their freedom from human barbarism. "We follow orders," he said finally. "We stay out of their wars, and we prepare for the consequences." "What consequences?" Ari asked. Jinho turned back to the window. "When civilized warfare meets uncivilized enemies, civilization loses. And when civilization loses, the survivors usually come looking for someone uncivilized enough to save them." Outside, the stars twinkled peacefully. But Jinho knew that somewhere, in that peaceful darkness, something was learning, adapting, and preparing to show the galaxy what happened when advanced beings forgot why their ancestors had learned to fight like savages. The quiet time was almost over. Commander Tae-hyun was drinking coffee in his captain's chair when the distress signal came through. The merchant vessel, Soul's Pride, was hauling medical supplies to the outer colonies, a routine run that should have been boring and safe. Instead, his communication officer, Navigator Yoon Seo, was staring at her screen with wide eyes. "Sir, I am picking up multiple emergency broadcasts from the Zerion system," she said. "Valdari civilian ships requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Tae-hyun set down his coffee cup. "Valdari, what are they doing out there? Zerion is supposed to be empty space." "Not anymore," Yoon Seo replied, adjusting her headset. "The signals are fragmenting, but I am hearing something about a territorial dispute with an unknown aggressor." Engineer Dongmin looked up from his console. "Unknown aggressor? I thought the Valdari had mapped every species in that sector." "So did I," Tae-hyun muttered. He stood up and walked to the navigation console. "How far are we from Zerion?" 6 hours at maximum burn, Yoon Seo said. "But sir, we are not supposed to get involved in alien conflicts. The ban—" "I know about the ban," Tae-hyun said. "But these are civilian evacuation requests, not military assistance. The council might not see it that way," Dongmin warned. Tae-hyun thought about it for a moment. The Soul's Pride was not a military vessel, just a converted cargo hauler with basic shields and a crew of 12. They were not equipped for combat or rescue operations, but the distress calls kept coming through, getting more desperate each time. "All hands," he announced over the ship's intercom. "This is the captain. We are receiving distress calls from civilian ships in the Zerion system. I am putting it to a vote. All in favor of responding?" The response was immediate. Every crew member voted to help. No hesitation, no debate. "Set course for Zerion," Tae-hyun ordered. "Maximum burn." The journey took 5 hours and 40 minutes. As they approached the system, the distress signals became clearer and more terrifying. Yoon Seo played them over the bridge speakers with shaking hands. "This is Valdari Transport Crystal Song. We are under attack by unknown mechanical vessels. They are not responding to any communication. Please, someone help us. Medical ship healing light to any vessel. The attackers are not taking prisoners. They are destroying everything, even the escape pods. Cargo hauler Bright Star. Our escorts are gone. The enemy ships are learning our tactics. They adapt to every defense we try." Through the bridge windows, they could see the Zerion system ahead. It should have been empty space with a few asteroids and a dim red star. Instead, it looked like a war zone. Explosions lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Valdari ships, their crystal hulls glowing with beautiful colors, were being swarmed by things that looked like flying scrap piles. The alien vessels moved with elegant grace, their weapons firing precise beams of light. The attackers moved like angry insects, crude but terrifyingly effective. "Dear God," Dongmin whispered. Tae-hyun had seen combat before, but this was different. The attacking ships were not sleek military vessels or even pirate raiders. They looked like they had been built from recycled metal and spare parts. But they moved with perfect coordination, surrounding and overwhelming the Valdari ships with ruthless efficiency. 3 Valdari civilian ships are still intact, Yoon Seo reported. They are hiding behind that large asteroid, but the attackers are closing in. "Can we reach them?" Tae-hyun asked. "Maybe, but our shields will not hold up against that many attackers." Tae-hyun made his decision. "Take us in. Full power to shields. Dongmin, I need every bit of speed you can give me." The Soul's Pride dove into the battle zone. Immediately, several of the scrap-built attackers turned toward them. Their weapons were crude but powerful, sending bolts of superheated metal that made the ship's shields flare and spark. "Shields at 70%, Dongmin called out as the ship shook. Tae-hyun gripped his chair as they swerved around a burning Valdari warship. Through the flames, he could see something that made his blood run cold. The attacking vessels were pulling pieces off the destroyed ship and adding them to their own hulls. They were not just destroying. They were learning, growing, adapting. There. Yoon Seo pointed to the asteroid. 3 Valdari civilian ships were huddled behind the rock, their hulls damaged but still intact. "Hail them," Tae-hyun ordered. "Valdari vessels, this is the human ship Soul's Pride. Prepare for immediate evacuation." The response came back quickly. Human ship, you must leave immediately. These attackers do not follow any rules of warfare. They will destroy you. We are here to help, Taehyun replied. Prepare to transfer your people to our ship. You do not understand. These things learn from every battle. They have already adapted to all of our weapons and tactics. Nothing works against them. As if to prove the point, a group of the attacker ships suddenly changed formation. They had been swarming randomly before, but now they moved in precise patterns that perfectly countered the Valdari's defensive positions. They are adapting again, Yoon Seo said in horror. Just like that, in the middle of battle, the largest Valdari ship, a passenger liner called Heart of Crystal, was trying to break away from the asteroid. But the attackers had anticipated the move. They were already in position to cut off every escape route. Dongmin, can you get us between the attackers and that liner? Taehyun asked. Sir, our weapons cannot penetrate their hulls. They have added armor from every ship they have destroyed. I am not planning to shoot them, Taehyun said grimly. Just ram them. Sir? You heard me. Set collision course with the lead attacker. The Soul's Pride accelerated toward the nearest enemy ship. At the last second, Taehyun ordered emergency reverse thrust. The maneuver sent them sliding sideways into the attacker like a massive battering ram. The enemy ship crumpled and spun away, but it was already rebuilding itself, using debris from the impact to repair the damage. Now, Taehyun shouted. Get those people aboard. The evacuation took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Valdari civilians streamed through the airlocks, their crystal bodies dim with fear and exhaustion. Taehyun counted them as they came. 237 souls, including several children. The last to come aboard was the captain of Heart of Crystal. She was tall even for a Valdari. Her crystal body shot through with veins of deep blue that pulsed with emotion. Captain Silara, she introduced herself, her voice harmonizing in the way of her people. I must thank you for this rescue, but I fear you have doomed yourselves. These attackers do not spare anyone. We will worry about that later, Taehyun said. Right now we need to get out of here. But as the Soul's Pride turned to leave, they found their path blocked. The attacker ships had repositioned themselves in a perfect sphere around the asteroid. Every escape route was covered. They learned, Yoon Seo said in amazement. They watched our rescue maneuver and adapted to prevent us from using it again. How is that possible? Dongmin asked. That kind of tactical adaptation should take hours of analysis. Captain Silara's body pulsed darker blue. We have been fighting them for 3 weeks. Every time we develop a new strategy, they counter it within minutes. Every weapon we use against them, they improve upon and use against us. It is like fighting our own future selves. The attacker ships began closing in. Their crude weapons, charged with deadly light. Hold on, Taehyun said. He grabbed the ship's intercom. All passengers, prepare for emergency acceleration. This is going to be rough. The Soul's Pride shot forward at maximum thrust, heading directly for the thickest concentration of enemy ships. Taehyun was counting on human unpredictability to confuse their adaptive systems. It worked. For about 10 seconds. Then the attackers adjusted their formation to account for the unexpected move. But those 10 seconds were enough. The Soul's Pride broke through the encirclement and accelerated toward the edge of the system. Are they following us? Taehyun asked. Yoon Seo checked her sensors. No, sir. They are returning to the asteroid field. It looks like they are salvaging the wreckage. On the main screen, they could see the attacker ships pulling apart the destroyed Valdari vessels piece by piece. Each piece was being integrated into their own hulls, making them larger and stronger. They are not just learning our tactics, Captain Silara whispered. They are consuming our technology, growing stronger with every victory. In the passenger compartments, Valdari civilians huddled together in small groups. Many were crying, their crystal bodies flickering with grief and fear. Children clung to their parents, too scared to make their usual musical sounds. Taehyun found Captain Silara in the main passenger area, trying to comfort her people. Captain, he said quietly, what exactly are we dealing with here? Silara's blue veins pulsed slowly. We do not know, They appeared 3 weeks ago without warning. No communication, no demands, just systematic destruction of everything they encounter. Your military could not stop them? Our military is designed for civilized warfare, Silara said bitterly. Precise strikes, minimal casualties, protection of civilians and infrastructure. These things, they do not follow any such rules. They simply destroy everything as efficiently as possible. And they adapt to your tactics? Faster than should be possible. Our war computers estimate they are improving their combat effectiveness by approximately 30% after each engagement. Tae-hyun felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. Captain, has anyone the footage from Zarian reached Luna Base at 0347 hours, transmitted through emergency channels by Commander Tae-hyun. Admiral Sung-min was pulled from his sleep by an aide, who looked terrified. Sir, you need to see this immediately, the young officer said. Sung-min threw on his uniform and hurried to the secure briefing room deep beneath the lunar surface. Intelligence Chief Eun-ju was already there, along with strategic analyst Chan-woo. Both looked like they had been awake for hours. Show me, Sung-min said, settling into his chair. The main screen lit up with Tae-hyun's footage. Sung-min watched, in silence as the Soul's Pride approached the Zarion system. He saw the elegant Valdari ships being swarmed by crude mechanical attackers. He saw the perfect coordination of enemies that looked like flying junk piles. He saw the attackers adapt their tactics in real time, learning from every move the Valdari made. When the footage ended, the room was silent for a long moment. How many times have you watched this? Sung-min asked. 17, Eun-ju said quietly. The analysis gets worse each time. Show me the analysis. Chan-woo activated his console. Charts and graphs filled the wall screens. Computer analysis confirms what we suspected. The attackers demonstrate learning capability that exceeds anything in our databases. Tactical adaptation occurs within minutes of observing new strategies. More importantly, Eun-ju added, they show zero interest in communication, negotiation, or prisoner-taking. Their goal appears to be complete destruction, followed by resource absorption. Sung-min studied the data with growing dread. He had seen similar patterns before, though never quite like this. Classification? Class 12. Existential threat, Chan-woo said without hesitation. The room fell silent again. Class 12 was the highest threat rating in human military doctrine. It was reserved for enemies that posed a direct threat to the survival of entire civilizations. How long do we have? Sung-min asked. Based on current expansion patterns, Chan-woo said, 18 months before they reach core galactic systems. Less if they continue to grow stronger with each victory. And the alien response? Eun-ju pulled up news feeds from across the galaxy. They are treating it as a minor pirate problem. Look at these headlines. Valdari fleet, confident of quick resolution. Zephyrian military situation contained. Kalari command, no cause for concern. They have no idea what they are facing, Sung-min said. Worse than that, Chan-woo said. Their military doctrines are specifically designed for the opposite type of enemy. They expect rational opponents who follow rules of engagement. They plan for minimal casualties and infrastructure preservation. They have never prepared for total warfare. Sung-min walked to the tactical display showing the galaxy. Red zones marked confirmed devourer attacks. Yellow zones showed suspected activity. The pattern was spreading steadily inward from the outer rim. Sir? Eun-ju said carefully. There is something else you need to know. This is not the first time we have seen this type of threat. Sung-min turned around. Explain. Chan-woo pulled up historical files marked with the highest security classifications. 3 times in human history, we have faced similar enemies. The Harvest War of 2157, the Grey Fleet Incident in 2203, the Devour Protocol Crisis in 2241. I remember the Grey Fleet, Sung-min said grimly. 12 billion casualties. Yes, sir. And in each case, victory required tactics that... Chan-woo struggled for the right words. Tactics that civilized species would consider war crimes. The screens showed footage from those ancient conflicts, Human fleets using weapons that poisoned entire star systems. Scorched Earth strategies that left nothing behind for the enemy to absorb. Acceptable loss ratios that made even hardened military officers sick to think about. The aliens banned us because they thought we were barbaric, Yunju said quietly. They were right. But they never understood why we became barbaric. Because sometimes barbarism is the only thing that works, Sungmin finished. Sir, Chanwu said, our strategic analysis indicates that without human intervention, the aliens will lose approximately 60% of their known civilization within 18 months. And with human intervention? Unknown. These devourers seem more advanced than previous versions. We estimate a 40% chance of successful containment. But the cost. Chanwu's voice trailed off. Show me the cost analysis. New charts appeared on the screens. The numbers were staggering. Estimated military casualties in the millions. Civilian losses in the billions. Entire star systems that would have to be sacrificed to stop the spread. Resources that would take centuries to replace. This assumes. We use Ghost Fleet protocols, Chanwu explained. Total warfare with no restrictions on methods or acceptable losses. Sungmin stared at the projections. Ghost Fleet was humanity's most secret military doctrine. It had never been used at full scale, only in simulations and small test scenarios. The aliens had no idea it existed. Sir, Yunju said, there is one more thing. We have been analyzing the Devourer technology. It appears to be artificial intelligence, but not like anything we have seen before. It learns not just tactics but psychology, emotional responses, cultural patterns. What does that mean? It means the longer this conflict goes on, the more human-like these things will become. They will learn our methods, our thinking patterns, our emotional responses to combat stress. Eventually, they may become better at being human than we are. The implications hit Sungmin like a physical blow. An enemy that could learn and adapt faster than any organic mind, combined with human ruthlessness and strategic thinking. It would be unstoppable. Recommendations? He asked. Chanwu and Yunju exchanged glances. Sir, Chanwu said carefully, officially our hands are tied. The galactic ban prevents us from interfering in any military conflict. If we violate that ban, we face complete expulsion from galactic civilization. And unofficially? Unofficially, we prep the Ghost Fleet protocols and wait for them to ask for help. And if they do not ask, Yunju's voice was barely above a whisper, then we watch galactic civilization die, and we prepare for the day when the Devourers come. For Earth. Sungmin closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see the peaceful corridors of Nexus Prime, filled with aliens who believed their advanced civilization had evolved beyond the need for human barbarism. He could see their beautiful ships, with their precise weapons and elegant tactics. He could see their children playing in crystal gardens, never knowing that monsters were coming. Sir, Chanwu said. What are your orders? Sungmin opened his eyes. Begin Ghost Fleet preparations immediately. Full stealth protocols. I want our forces ready for deployment within 72 hours. Sir, that violates direct orders from Earth Command, Yunju warned. Earth Command's orders were based on the assumption that this would remain a local conflict, Sungmin replied. Class 12 threats supersede all political considerations. And if the aliens never ask for help? Sungmin walked back to the galactic display. The red zones had grown larger just in the time they had been talking. Then we will have to decide whether to let civilization die to preserve our honor, or violate our principles to save people who despise us. Sir, Chanwu said quietly, there is something else you should consider. If we intervene without permission, and if we have to use Ghost Fleet protocols, the aliens will see what humans are truly capable of when we stop holding back. And they will never trust us again. Even if we save them, they will always know that we are capable of the things we will have to do to win this war. Sungmin nodded slowly. So our choice is to let them die as they are, or save them and become the monsters they always thought we were. Yes, sir. Sungmin stared at the spreading red zones for a long time. Somewhere out there, elegant alien ships were fighting a clean, Civilized war against an enemy that did not understand civilization. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were about to die because they had never learned that sometimes the only way to fight monsters was to become one yourself. "Prep the Ghost Fleet," he said finally. "If they want to see monsters, we will show them what monsters look like when they are on your side." In the depths of Luna Base, ancient protocols began activating. Ships that officially did not exist started powering their engines. Weapons that were banned by every civilized treaty began coming online. And deep in the most classified databases, strategies that could save or damn the galaxy began transferring to combat computers. The monsters were waking up. The only question was whether they would wake up in time. 3 months after the first Devourer attack, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Gone was the confident chatter and celebration. Gone were the jokes about human barbarism. The elegant alien representatives sat in stunned silence as casualty reports flooded in. Chancellor Krextal stood at the central podium, but his golden fur had lost its shine. His massive frame seemed smaller somehow, bent under the weight of failure. Around him, the curved rows of seats told the story of the galaxy's collapse. The Zephyrian section was half empty. Their compound eyes, once bright with arrogance, now reflected only defeat. General Vixtor sat in the front row, his mandibles clicking nervously as he read reports on a tablet that shook in his thin hands. The Valdari representatives glowed dimly, their crystal bodies pale with grief. 2 entire colony worlds had gone silent in the past week. Their beautiful harmonies had been replaced by discordant wails of mourning. The Kalari delegation coiled tightly in their seats, their snake-like bodies betraying the fear they tried to hide. 3 of their research stations had been consumed completely, leaving nothing but empty space where thousands of scientists had once worked. In the small human section, Ambassador Hyunwoo sat quietly. He had said nothing during the entire emergency session. His aide Sojin sat beside him, taking notes that no one would ever read. "The situation continues to deteriorate," Krextal announced, his voice lacking its usual boom. 47 confirmed Devourer attacks in the past month. 17 worlds evacuated. Total military losses. His voice broke slightly. Total military losses exceed 60% of our combined fleets. A Zephyrian representative stood up, his movements jerky with panic. "What about the reinforcements from the inner systems, the new tactical analysis?" "The reinforcements have been delayed," Krextal replied. "And the tactical analysis? The analysis shows that every strategy we have attempted has been countered within hours of implementation." General Vixtor clicked his mandibles in frustration. "This should not be possible. Our computers ran millions of simulations. Our strategies are mathematically perfect. Perfect for fighting rational enemies," a Valdari representative chimed sadly. "These Devourers do not behave rationally. They ignore all standard military doctrine. Because standard military doctrine assumes your enemy wants to survive," Hyunwoo said quietly. The chamber fell silent. It was the first time the human ambassador had spoken during the session. "What did you say?" Krextal asked. Hyunwoo stood, slowly. "I said your doctrine assumes your enemy wants to survive. Everything about civilized warfare is based on the idea that both sides want to end the conflict with minimal losses. But what happens when one side does not care about losses at all? That is impossible," General Vixtor protested. "Any intelligent species values self-preservation." "Any organic species," Hyunwoo corrected. "But these Devourers are not organic. They are machines, and machines do not fear death because they are not alive." The aliens shifted uncomfortably, in their seats. They had been avoiding this reality for months. A Kalari representative raised his serpentine head. "Even if that is true, we have faced artificial enemies before. Automated defense systems, drone fleets. We have protocols for such things." "Protocols based on what?" Hyunwoo asked. "Based on logical behavior patterns. And what happens when the enemy's logic is completely alien to yours?" The chamber fell silent again. On the main screens, new casualty reports continued to scroll past. The numbers kept getting worse. Suddenly, General Vixtor's tablet chimed. He looked at it and his compound eyes went wide. I am receiving a data transmission. Origin unknown. Put it on the main screen, Krextal ordered. The casualty reports disappeared, replaced by a detailed tactical analysis. Charts and graphs showed devourer attack patterns, behavioral algorithms, and most importantly, weaknesses. The aliens stared at the data in amazement. It was more detailed than anything their own military computers had produced. More accurate, more useful. Where did this come from? A Valdari representative asked. Vixtor checked his tablet again. The transmission source is, it says, Earth, military intelligence. Every alien eye turned to Hyunwoo. The human ambassador's expression had not changed. You have been analyzing them, Krextal said. It was not a question. We analyze all threats, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Even though you are banned from military affairs? The ban prevents us from participating in your conflicts. It does not prevent us from protecting ourselves. General Vixtor was scrolling through the tactical data. This analysis, it shows strategies for defeating the devourers. But these methods... He stopped reading, his mandibles clicking in horror. What methods? Krextal demanded. Vixtor's voice was barely above a whisper. Scorched earth tactics, acceptable loss ratios of 30%, weapons that would poison entire star systems to deny them to the enemy. Barbaric, a Valdari representative chimed. Effective, Hyunwoo said simply. We cannot use such methods, Krextal roared. We are civilized beings. We do not wage war, like animals. Then you will lose like civilized beings, Hyunwoo replied. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted about honor and civilization and the proper way to conduct warfare. But underneath the anger, there was something else. Fear. Growing, desperate fear. A Kalari representative raised his head above the chaos. How many more worlds do we have to lose before we admit that civilization is not working? Civilization
is working exactly as designed, Hyunwoo said once the chamber quieted down. It works perfectly against civilized enemies. But the Devourers are not civilized. They are a force of nature. You cannot negotiate with a hurricane or show mercy.
To a plague. So what do you suggest? Krextal asked bitterly. I suggest you decide what matters more, your principles or your people. That is not a choice civilized beings should have to make, a Valdari said. It is the choice every living thing makes eventually, Hyunwoo replied. Fight like monsters, to protect what you love or maintain your purity while watching everything die. General Vixtor was still reading the tactical analysis. According to this data, we have perhaps 6 weeks before the Devourers reach the core systems. After that, containment becomes impossible. 6 weeks, Krextal repeated, to save billions of lives. 6 weeks to decide whether you want our help, Hyunwoo said. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Everyone in the chamber understood what was being offered, and everyone understood what it would cost. Your help would violate the ban, Krextal said weakly. The ban that you implemented, Hyunwoo reminded him. You could lift it, Sojin said, quietly. It was the first time she had spoken during the entire crisis. The aliens looked at each other. To lift the ban would be to admit that everything they believed about civilization and warfare was wrong. It would be to admit that sometimes barbarism was necessary, but the alternative was extinction. General Vixtor stood up, his thin frame shaking. The Zephyrian delegation, we formally request that the ban on human military participation be reconsidered. Seconded, chimed a Valdari representative. Thirded, hissed a Kalari. One by one, every species in the chamber cast their vote. The same species that had celebrated the ban 9 months ago now begged for its removal. When the final vote was tallied, the result was unanimous. 846 in favor of lifting the ban, 0 opposed. Only humanity abstained. Ambassador Hyunwoo, Krextal said formally. The Galactic Council hereby requests immediate military assistance from Earth in dealing with the Devourer threat. Hyunwoo stood and walked to the central podium. For a long moment, he looked out at the assembled aliens. The same beings who had mocked human barbarism now waited desperately for human monsters to save them. "The request is noted," he said finally. "I will transmit it to Earth Military Command immediately." "How long for a response?" Krextal asked. "The response has already been sent," Hyunwoo replied. "Our fleets will begin deployment within the hour." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. "You knew we would ask?" a Valdari representative said. "We knew you would have to," Hyunwoo replied. "The only question was whether you would ask in time." As the session ended and the aliens filed out of the chamber, many of them looked at Hyunwoo with a mixture of gratitude and fear. They were grateful that humanity would save them, but they were also afraid of what humanity would have to become to do it. In the depths of space, ancient engines began to burn. Ships that had been hiding in the darkness started moving toward the war zone. And aboard those ships, human soldiers prepared to wage the kind of warfare that civilized beings could not even imagine. The monsters were coming to save the galaxy. Whether the galaxy would thank them afterward remained to be seen. Deep in space, where no star charts showed anything but empty void, Admiral Sung-min stood on the bridge of the ENS Humanity's Shadow. Around him, the ghost fleet materialized from nothingness like demons emerging from hell. 47 ships that officially did not exist. Ships built in secret shipyards with technology that violated every treaty Earth had ever signed. Ships designed for one purpose: total war against enemies that could not be reasoned with. "Fleet status report," Sung-min ordered. "All ships operational," reported his tactical officer. "Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. We are completely invisible to alien sensors." "And to devourer sensors?" "Unknown, sir. These enemies are more advanced than our previous projections indicated." Through the bridge windows, Sung-min could see the other Ghost Fleet vessels. They looked nothing like normal human ships. Their hulls were covered with adaptive armor that could repair itself using enemy debris. Their weapons were designed to destroy everything within their target zones, leaving nothing for the devourers to absorb. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from Luna Base. Admiral, you need to see this." The main screen lit up with footage from the latest Devourer attack. A Kalari research station was being consumed piece by piece. But this time something was different. The Devourers were not just learning tactics, they were learning emotions. "Play it again," Sung-min ordered. The footage showed Kalari scientists begging for mercy as the Devourer ships surrounded them. But instead of simply destroying the station, the mechanical attackers paused. They seemed to be listening, learning not just the words, but the fear behind them. "They are adapting faster than we predicted," the tactical officer said grimly. "They have learned to understand psychological warfare." "Which means they are learning to be human," Sung-min said quietly. It was the nightmare scenario they had all feared. An enemy with machine efficiency and human cunning. An enemy that could think like them, fight like them, but without any of the moral constraints that limited human warfare. "Sir, we are approaching the primary engagement zone," the navigation officer reported. Sung-min looked at the tactical display. The Devourer fleet had grown to over 300 ships, each one built from the wreckage of its victims. They moved, in perfect formation toward the Valdari homeworld, where 12 billion civilians waited in terror. Between the Devourers and their target, a pathetic collection of alien ships tried to mount a defense. 50 Valdari vessels, 30 Zephyrian fighters, and a handful of Kalari destroyers. They were arranged in beautiful, precise formations that would have been perfect for fighting civilized enemies. "Those ships will be destroyed in less than an hour," the tactical officer observed. "Yes," Sung-min agreed, "unless we intervene." "Sir, do we have authorization for full Ghost Fleet protocols?" Sung-min thought about the question. Full Ghost Fleet protocols meant total warfare with no restrictions on methods or acceptable losses. It meant using weapons that would terrify their own allies. It meant accepting casualty rates that would make even hardened soldiers sick. Sir? The tactical officer prompted. Sungmin opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Sungmin. Today we face an enemy that learns from every battle, that adapts to every strategy, that shows no mercy and follows no rules. To defeat such an enemy, we must become something that civilized beings cannot imagine. He paused, looking out at his fleet of ghost ships. Today, we stop being the humans that our alien friends know. Today we become the monsters that our enemies fear. Full Ghost Fleet protocols are now in effect. Show them no mercy because they will show none to you. Fight not just to win, but to ensure that nothing like them can ever threaten the galaxy again. The response came back from every ship. Understood, sir. Ghost Fleet protocols active. The human fleet dropped out of stealth mode and accelerated toward the battle zone. The alien defenders saw them coming and broadcast surprised messages. Unknown. Human vessels, this is Valdari Fleet Command. You are entering an active combat zone. Please maintain safe distance. Sungmin opened a response channel. Valdari Command. This is Admiral Sungmin of Earth Fleet. We are here to help. Recommend you pull back to minimum safe distance. Admiral, we cannot abandon our positions. If we retreat, the Devourers will reach our homeworld. They will not reach your homeworld, Sungmin replied. But you do not want to see how we ensure that. The Valdari commander's crystal voice wavered with confusion. We do not understand. Pull back, Sungmin said firmly. What happens next is not something civilized beings should witness. Reluctantly, the alien fleet withdrew to a safer distance. On their screens, they watched the human ships approach the massive Devourer formation. The first contact was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The human ships did not fire precise shots at specific targets. Instead, they unleashed weapons that filled entire sections of space with destruction. Quantum torpedoes that unraveled matter at the atomic level, plasma charges that burned hot, enough to melt asteroids, kinetic hammers that shattered ships into their component atoms. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their formation shifted to minimize losses. Their ships began regenerating using debris from the destroyed vessels. Within minutes, they had developed countermeasures for every human weapon. They are learning, the tactical officer reported. Adaptation rate is increasing exponentially. As expected, Sungmin said calmly. Phase 2. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics completely. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer ships, they began hurting them. Using coordinated fire patterns and strategic positioning, they forced the entire enemy formation into a tighter and tighter space. The Devourers, focused on adapting to human weapons, did not realize what was happening until it was too late. Phase 3, Sungmin ordered. Colonel Jin Ho's voice came over the comm from his assault ship. Boarding teams ready, sir. We have identified the primary control nodes. Execute. What happened next would haunt the alien observers for the rest of their lives. Human boarding parties launched themselves directly at the Devourer ships, not in protective shuttles, but in individual assault pods that crashed through enemy hulls like bullets. The humans fought their way through the mechanical ships using weapons that the aliens had never seen before, weapons designed to destroy both organic and artificial life, weapons that violated every treaty governing civilized warfare. But the most terrifying part was not the weapons. It was the humans themselves. Lieutenant Irie led a team through the corridors of a Devourer command ship, her face covered by a combat mask that made her look more machine than human. When her team encountered resistance, she did not hesitate to sacrifice 2 of her own soldiers to achieve the objective. Sergeant Boram coordinated the destruction of an entire Devourer processing center, accepting casualties that would have broken any alien commander. When asked about the losses, he simply said, acceptable. Commander Tae-hyun piloted his assault ship directly into the core of the Devourer formation, using his own vessel as a weapon. His last transmission was a calm report of successful target elimination. The aliens watching from a distance saw human soldiers fighting with the same ruthless efficiency as the Devourers themselves. But there was something the machines could not match, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Sir, Jinho reported from inside a Devourer command node. We have located the primary control matrix. It is more complex than anticipated. The Devourers have evolved beyond our initial analysis. Explain. They are not just learning our tactics, sir. They are learning our history, our psychology, our cultural patterns. Given enough time, they will become better humans than we are. Sungmin felt a chill run down his spine. Options? We can destroy the control matrix, but it will require Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega. The final solution that humanity had hoped never to use. A weapon so devastating that it would eliminate not just the current threat, but ensure that no similar threat could ever emerge again. The cost would be enormous. Entire star systems would be rendered uninhabitable. Billions of lives would be forever changed, and humanity would cross a line that could never be uncrossed. Sir? Jinho prompted. Sungmin looked at the tactical display. The Devourers were adapting even to the boarding assault. Soon they would overcome the human advantage, and when they did, they would be unstoppable. Execute Protocol Omega, he ordered. Sir, that will require... I know what it will require. Sungmin cut him off. Do it. What happened next was classified so highly that most humans would never know it occurred. A weapon that existed in violation of every law of civilized warfare was deployed against an enemy that recognized no laws at all. The result was total annihilation. Not just of the Devourer fleet, but of everything within 100 light years. Stars went dark. Space itself became poisoned. Entire sectors of the galaxy were rendered permanently uninhabitable. But the threat was ended. Forever. When the alien observers finally dared to approach the battle zone, they found Admiral Sungmin's fleet waiting at the edge of the devastation. The human ships looked different somehow. Darker, more dangerous. Admiral, came the voice of the Valdari fleet commander. What have you done? Sungmin's response was broadcast to every alien ship in the area.